not every day we fish is going to be picture perfect. We got some pretty nasty weather right now. But if you prepare for it, you can get out and go fishing and be safe and comfortable. But if you're unprepared for it, you talk about miserable. Don't know if we'll catch any fish on a day like this. We are going to share some information on how you can gear up to enjoy a day out like this and maybe not even know it's that bad. So stay tuned. We'll see if we can't get out on the water and help you get prepared.
On today's episode of the Bass Pro Shop's Fisherman's Handbook, host Wade Middleton has made his way over into East Texas and is preparing to head out onto Sam Rayburn Reservoir in search of pre-spawn bass. As he pulls up to the ramp today, Wade's been greeted with rain, cold winds, and harsh conditions. This may not look like the best day to get out on the water, but as the first half of today's episode moves along, Wade will show how being prepared, having the proper equipment, and a little hard work can pay dividends in these types of conditions.
For me, on a recent trip, pulled up to the boat ramp and, the rain was rolling in. You look on the radar and it was red. Red usually means heavy rain and lightning in my book, and there was no need to go running straight out on the water. But at the same time, I knew I was prepared to be able to handle the conditions should I have wanted to. Once I deemed it safe, I could dress up properly to get out on the water and be successful. And that's something a lot of people have to keep in mind to be comfortable. Going out, obviously you can go fishing in any old set of clothes that you want, but will you enjoy it? Will you be comfortable? Probably not. So if you prepare the right ways and layer up in the right clothing, have the right kind of clothing to be able to handle the conditions, you can pretty much get out and fish in any conditions and enjoy it. This is those days you catch those giants. When I look at the day right now that we're unloading on, we've just had a storm pass through. Low pressure, the wind's blowing, it's been raining. Probably gonna get a little more rain before the day's over. As we're heading down the ramp and starting to fish along the area, the first things pop up into my mind, there's a lot of grass. And when I can find a lot of grass, I know I'm gonna be able to figure out how to catch some bass. There he is right there. Another little guy. Little guys will warm you up after a cold day. All right, buddy. Woo! Little guys. All right, man. Put me back in the water, sir. It's warmer in the water than it is up here. Like we're ice fishing. I'll let you go. When you look at water conditions, water temperature, the actual conditions in an area that you're fishing, depth and all those, it plays a variable in where the fish are gonna set up. And it's amazing to me, sometimes I can be at the middle of a cove and it'll be, one set of temperature, and at the mouth or in the back it'll be a totally different set of conditions once you get back there based on the water temperature. This scenario right here, the further back I went, the warmer the water got. And that's where I started getting bites and started to really get a good reaction bite on the Aruku Shad. I was actually throwing a smaller version one and ripping it through the tops of those grass and then trying to let it feather down on a long creek edge. And those fish, because we had a good low pressure day, they were knocking slack in that bait every time. We're just following that hydrilla edge and catching a lot of little bucks at the back end of this creek on this small Aruku Shad, and I mean it is solid hydrilla through here. We can't throw a big one, a big bait through here because it's just going to bury up in the grass too fast. So we're actually throwing a smaller one, and paying off with a few bites.
Time now for a break, but when we return, host Wade Middleton continues breaking down the conditions out on Sam Rayburn and catching fish on a go-to lure for this body of water during the spring, the Aruku Shad. Stay tuned for more Fisherman's Handbook.
As people who love the outdoors, we know what we stand for. We stand for fish, wildlife, and conserving the places they call home. We stand for the traditions we inherited and that we must pass on. We stand for great gear, fair prices, expert service, and memorable experiences. At Bass Pro Shops in Cabela's, we stand together for you.
For 50 years, Ranger has led the way in innovative, high-performance designs, and we're raising the bar again with a bold new flagship line, the Ranger Z Comanche L Series. These rigs are custom crafted with a passion for perfection and loaded with more features and advantages to deliver domination at every level. The next generation Ranger L Series. Celebrate a legacy, 50 years in the making.
The Fisherman's Handbook is brought to you in part by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Garmin, fight your fish, not your fish finder. And by Yamaha Marine, reliability starts here.
Look at that. You don't think he didn't eat that Aruku Shad? He choked on it.
Welcome back to this episode of the Fisherman's Handbook. As anglers, we all know we can't control the conditions we're faced with out on the water, but we have to take what's given and make the most of it. Today, out on Sam Rayburn Reservoir, Wade Middleton has the opportunity to fish in low-pressure conditions, and he's capitalizing on this opportunity.
All right, fish, we're gonna let you go back. There's a huge difference, in my opinion, in a low-pressure day and a high-pressure day when it comes to the weather. You know, those high-pressure days, I talk about it a lot, where you've got a bluebird sky, you know, the sun's real bright, a lot of times there's very little wind. Those tend to be a little bit tougher fishing days when it comes to just getting a lot of bites or getting an aggressive bite, in my opinion. On the flip side of that, you get a low-pressure day. You get a kind of an old cloudy day, and it's kind of rainy, and the wind's blowing a little bit, and it's just nasty. It looks like, man, I just want to roll over and go back to sleep. That's sometimes the best days of all to be able to go fishing, because the fish are going to be a little bit more active. They tend to be snapping. They're going to bite more readily in a lot of situations. So for fishermen, don't stay home just because it's a bad weather day. A lot of times, if you can safely get out and go fishing, that's the time to go. You know, what you can see looking at the units right there is there's a lot of hydrilla down there, and it's just kind of almost all matted. And every now and then you'll see us getting to 3.5 and 4 foot deep. And you can actually see that lighter color on the mapping portion that I've got, that I'm trying to kind of keep the boat along the edge of that, because that's the drain. That's where we come through here. The Garmin surveys come through and, you know, identified that as the deeper water, and that's where the fish should be. And that hydrilla is just almost to the top back here right now, even though the water's that cold. So, you know, we're just looking for the highway, trying to intersect them. And they're probably gonna be, for the most part, you know, 1 to 3 pound fish that we're gonna find all the way back here right now. But after the weather from earlier in the day, we'll take those. As you dissect all the pieces of the puzzle that day, it's amazing what little subtleties may trigger you to do one thing or another. You know, I'd had a couple of bites, and as I was working way to the back of this pocket, I had just about given up on going any further. And when I looked down, I noticed on my water temperature that it was about 2 degrees warmer now than it was several hundred yards behind me. That prompted me to go just a little bit deeper into the cove. And as I went deeper into the cove, I started really trying to watch my mapping to find those little edges, a little bit of that drop off, and move my Panoptics around to target some of those clumps. And as I did, I began to get some awesome reaction bites. Water's 2 degrees warmer back here, and they are knocking the fire out of it when they bite. I mean, they're just nailing it. Boy, these fish are healthy. Anybody that's ever fished a lipless crankbait, and I'm partial to the SPRO Aruku Shad, but anybody that's ever fished one of these will tell you, when you get on this kind of bite and you pause it and they hit it like a freight train and they start going the other way, will attest that it is one of the funnest bites that you'll ever have. And now you're gonna get your feelings hurt. You're gonna lose a couple, because a lot of times they'll slap at it and get hooked on the outside of the mouth and they'll get away. But when they bite it, it's a blast. You know, it's amazing how close you can be to success and failure in fishing. It could be, you know, a little bait change, a little rhythm change, a difference in your cadence, maybe moving 100 yards and doing something different, and all of a sudden you start catching fish. And so when it comes down to dissecting those things, those little bitty nuances, there's some days that people just really dial it in, and other days they don't get it figured out and catch as many. So as a fisherman, I guess the moral to that story is keep a line in the water and figure out how to catch them, because sooner or later, once you dial them in, you can repeat that time and time again.
Well, they're all clones, fat as footballs, and mad as can be. I mean, every one of them just pow. That'll warm you up fast.
Coming up, conditions can change from minute to minute, hour to hour, and even day to day. After the break, Wade returns out to the same body of water the following day, but this time, the weather pattern has shifted significantly. Find out if Wade can manage to figure him out.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore.
You sons of fishes. Ain't enough fish on this lake for 2 clubs.
Really? Well, we see plenty of fish live with Panoptics.
Yep. Dang, we should get Panoptics. Maybe we'll just take yours.
What's going on here? You boys have license?
Yes, sir.
Nope.
There he is. Oh, I got him.
The Fisherman's Handbook is brought to you in part by Ranger Boats, still building legends, one at a time. Engel, the original high-performance cooler. Sunline America, the strength to guarantee your confidence. And by Bradley Smoker, food smoking made easy. After a full day of fishing in adverse conditions consisting of heavy winds and rain, Wade has decided to return to Sam Rayburn Reservoir in search of more hungry pre-spawn bass. And as the sun has risen on a new day, the conditions have changed drastically.
We've got totally different fishing conditions. You know, yesterday we were able to get out for about an hour. I mean, the cold front was coming through, it was raining, it was low pressure, and the fish were snapping on a Aruku Shad in the back of a pocket. Now we're dealing with mostly clear bluebird skies, very, very little wind. So we have to, in our mind as fishermen, think we've got to adjust and adapt just a little bit. Things are going to be different while we're out on the water, so we need to present our bait different. First thing that comes to my mind when I start seeing this type of a condition with the high bluebird sky, water temperatures, what they are, is a suspending jerkbait. You know, a suspending jerkbait is phenomenal to be able to throw out, twitch it down, and leave it in the strike zone. And by leaving it in the strike zone, it's a very subtle thing that allows you to be able to get bites from fish that are otherwise lethargic. Basically, you're teasing them, you're leaving it in the strike zone. A little suspending jerkbait. I mean, a chunky bass right there. This is perfect conditions for suspending jerkbait, really. Water temperatures are not quite to 50. He got all the hooks in there. That's what you like to see. You know, when you're fishing this bait, it's not my preferred style. I'll be the first to admit. And Mike McClellan can sit there and throw this thing and let it sit and watch the paint dry on his house, whereas I'm more of a fast fisherman. But when you can catch fatties like that, look at the belly on that fish. Makes it fun. Great start. You know, there's a lot of things to keep in mind when it comes to jerkbait fishing. First and foremost, a good rod selection. You know, you don't want to use a rod that's going to be way too heavy and way too stiff in jerkbait fishing. That weight and that stiffness is just going to wear you out. You're going to feel it in your elbows and your forearms. You want something light, you know, designed for jerkbaits and topwaters. It will really allow you to get good action without exerting too much energy in it. Secondly, the speed of the reel. I like a slower reel versus a faster reel. You know, you get into those 7-to-1, 8-to-1 type reels. I mean, basically you're moving so much line so fast with those when you're using a jerkbait, you're taking it out of the strike zone. And I want a 6-to-1 type reel to leave it in that strike zone a little bit longer, so I'm not moving it quite as fast. And finally, most people will use fluorocarbon line when it comes to jerkbait fishing in an 8 to 12 pound test range. And normally that's what I do, but I'll tell you on this trip, I actually changed to monofilament. The reason I changed to monofilament is the grass was so high in the areas that I was fishing that I didn't want my bait to get quite as deep as fluorocarbon would get it. I wanted to basically give up a foot of depth to be able to get it a little bit higher so I could stay in that area of about 4 feet down, which is what I felt like was the perfect strike zone for the way I was fishing. Old clown colored mixed stick.
And next on the Fisherman's Handbook, Wade continues to get dialed in on the fish, targeting them with a suspending jerkbait. Don't miss some of the best fishing action of the day. We'll be right back.
Secrets are created to protect information, but keeping a secret is not as easy as it seems. For over a decade, anglers across the nation have used Secret Lures tackle to reel in their catch. From small ponds to large bodies of water and tour-level events, the secret to their success has been tied to the end of their line all along. They've been using Secret Lures. First you've heard of them? Maybe your fishing buddies aren't really your buddies. Visit secretlures.com and place your order today.
When I talk about Sunline, I think of one word: confidence.
Sunline FX2 is what I use for all of my frogging and flipping.
S61 braid, which braid plays a big part in fishing line.
Shooter, I'm going to use in those close quarter deals like flipping and pitching.
One of my favorite techniques in fishing the tournament trail is to fish offshore ledges.
We have taken the questions out of the equation.
Take my word for it. It works. It works, dude.
At Sawyer, we use the best technology to make simple products that keep you going regardless of your journey. So whether you're boating, hiking, fishing, camping, or hunting, we keep you outdoors with a full lineup of products to both protect you and make the outdoors more enjoyable. Sawyer, we keep you outdoors.
The Fisherman's Handbook is brought to you in part by Sawyer Products. We keep you outdoors. Power Pole Shallow Water Anchors. Swift, silent, secure. And by Ill. Dress like a pro.
As you look out across here, I mean, it just looks like a big bay. And it's, you know, there's a bay with several pockets and little channels through here, but it's full of hydrilla right now. So trying to find areas that you can get a bite in, basically where the fish is gonna set up for an ambush point, or they're basically just sitting there staging in that grass because it's kind of cold this morning, is tough. So what I'm doing is I'm using electronics. Here's a great example. You can see the ditch right there. There's the top of the grass, how it drops off right there and then flattens off. So I'm looking at my traditional sonar, my mapping, and how my colors are set up so that I can find the little deeper drain, a little deeper stretch to stay in to throw this jerkbait across it. And then as I get in there, using Panoptics to try to identify gaps in the holes in front of me, out 40, 50, 100 feet, so that I can, you know, target those with cast, go down, twitch, twitch, and then pause that jerkbait in there. That's a big one. That's gonna be a big one right there. He took line and he took off. Oh, he's in the grass. Oh yeah, there's a good one. And he's got a face full of hooks. Come here. Boy, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking about. There's a fat one. I mean, he crushed that little jerkbait out there right in the middle of the drain. Use the pliers again. On a straight pause. Boom. I mean, it's warming up. Water temperatures came up about 1 degree now. That may be making a difference on why these fish are hitting it a little harder this morning. You know, they were barely just ticking every bait we threw.
A lot better there. Boy, that is as fun as it gets right there. I mean, that was like hooking a freight train right there. You know, I've had 2 or 3 of them now that just nailed it. You know, we talked about earlier in the day, everything was just there. Now, they're actively hitting it. I can feel them taking it away from me. And as soon as that one, you know, I paused it, the bait's just sitting neutral out there. It's just sitting there like this. And then all of a sudden, boop, it's gone. I mean, I knew right away we had one with a little bit better shoulders that time. We're just fishing down the middle of the drain. You know, I'm using my mapping to basically tell me, you know, here's where I need to be. Because I haven't fished this cove here and, you know, since last year we came over here sight fishing. And, but I've got my mapping set up with the reds and the greens and the yellows so that I can actually say, here's where the ditches are and the drains should be to give me a better feel, and then I'll scan around with the Panoptics, and it just helps you put your boat in a better spot where you're not just always throwing towards the bank, because right now the bank is covered in hydrilla and these fish are out on the edge of it. I got him that time. Woo! This is fun. I mean, they're just slaps, banging and nipping at it all along. All I can do is start laughing at this point here. It just, when you get them going and you start catching fish consistently, that just never gets old. I had 2 bites on that cast, and I think he both times just kind of come up and licked the tail of it. And then that second time he licked it and we got the hook in him. Regardless of how many we catch or don't catch the rest of this day, we have had a lot of bites. You know, started off really, you know, scattered bite here, scattered bite there, very light bite. Now that, you know, we've got into the afternoon, a few scattered clouds, water temperature's warmed up about 2 degrees, they're really, you know, starting to fire, as you would expect. I mean, there's, you know, we laugh that there's no, we don't want to get out on the water at 8 o'clock because we want to fish till dark a lot of times this time of the year, but I mean, that's just kind of my mentality. I'd rather be out here when it's a little warmer. The fish are going to be a little more active in the afternoons versus the summertime when, you know, I may want to be out here at daybreak, but, you know, the day we went and ate breakfast and piddled and got on the water late, and it's paying off at a lot of late afternoon bites. Maybe another big one. He's dogging like a good one. I don't know. He's just hooked, I think he's hooked on the side of the mouth. Yeah, he's hooked on the side of the mouth. Easy. Easy. That's one of those ones that just came up and kind of nipped the tail. Bit it like that. And he just kind of nipped at it. All of them are good. So many variables going into this fishing trip here that made for the successes and failures. You know, bait changes, weather changes, you know, caught fish regardless of what was going on, but had to adapt a lot. You know, the fish were moving. Some of them were set up really in the deep water hunts. Some of them were up shallow, actively chasing that Aruku shad. Some of them we had to tease with the jerk bait. It was amazing to see how the bite evolved, you know, from that crushing reaction bite the first afternoon to a very light nibble the next morning to a better aggressive bite as that final afternoon we were out there. And the sum of all parts is a great fishing trip. Sam Rayburn, without a doubt, one of the best bass fishing lakes in the nation, and there's a reason why. It's just a healthy fishery and has been for decades. Hopefully it'll stay that way for a long time, and hopefully you enjoyed some of these tips we shared, some of the insight we showed, and some of the ways we talked about to catch fish in a wide range of conditions in less than 24 hours. Giant bass, hold him way out here. Yeah, they're still as big as him. Not a lot I can do to make him bigger than what he is.
Tired of forgetting to set a recording or missing the latest episode of your favorite outdoors show? Check out Outdoor Action today. Never miss a second of shows like Americana Outdoors, Cabela's Fisherman's Handbook, and Whitetail Diaries. All of this at the press of a button, without a subscription fee required. Start watching your favorite shows when you want to watch them by going to OutdoorAction.com or through the Outdoor Action channel on any Roku device.
This tube is the greatest thing in the world. When you're catching fish on it, it builds your confidence. To me, that's the most important part of bass fishing, is you have to have confidence in this bait when we're throwing it.
I've had guys say, you fish like you believe there's a fish there. Well, I do. I'm feeling everything that I can feel with that bait.
If you need to get bites, it'll just absolutely get bit.
Here at Big Bite Baits, we've got a big line of different plastics, and you know, they're all a tool, so you want to have them with you all the time.
I made several checks in crowded areas flipping that right there. Just a 6-inch Big Bite Creetail worm.
Here at Big Bite, we came out with 4 brand new colors this year. All 4 of these colors are going to be great fish catching baits.
Definitely my #1 go-to bait that Big Bite has out right now is the Big Bite Battle Bug.
Big Bite is leading the way when it comes to innovation and colors.
Many said that we were just obsessed when we started, that there had to be an easier way to smoke food. As time passed, the Bradley family created a lineup of Bradley electric smokers that has made it easier for the novice or even expert chef to get perfect results every time they use it. Grab yourself a Bradley smoker and take your cooking to an all-new level.
We demand a lot from the products that we use on our adventures around the world. When it comes to keeping things seriously cold, we rely on Angle Coolers, who have for over 50 years kept things cold. Angle Coolers, the original high-performance cooler.